Hello everyone, in this video I will present you with 5 surprising and unexpected things that we learned from the Grandmaster Jiang Shan. But before that, I think there are a lot of misconceptions about my training and what I've been doing over this year. So I want to give you a little bit of a rundown on my background, because this also gives a lot of perspective on the things that I learned from Qigong and Kung Fu. And so I've been training very seriously for about a decade. I've really dedicated my life for training, and it has been a true passion for me for all these years. But my earliest basically encounter with martial arts started with Taekwondo that I did for 4 years during my teenage years. Since then I did Capoeira for 2 years. I also trained Thai boxing, and from there on I have trained MMA, I trained wrestling, boxing, kickboxing, BJJ. I have been to a very excruciating Muay Thai camp in Bangkok. I spent 1 month training with the Russians, MMA and wrestling, and I also taught these fighters movement training and mobility training. I've also trained with many high-level teachers and masters such as George St. Pierre, Michael J. White, Steve Maxwell, just to name a few here. And overall, our training programs are also very popular among martial artists. There we have BJJ guys, Taekwondo guys, Karate guys, MMA guys, a lot of Kung Fu practitioners also doing our training programs, because our programs really develop this universal strength and universal performance that help you in any sport. And I wouldn't be surprised if more and more martial artists will join our programs eventually, because they do offer a competitive advantage when it comes to developing the martial art and even regarding fighting. I'm also planning to, in about a month, join a start to join the pro MMA classes here in Dubai. So this martial arts journey for me is still, it has been a long journey, but it's still just in a way in the beginning. And more than just the martial arts, as I said, I've been doing this for a decade, and I've really spent an enormous amount of time on learning, studying, researching, and experimenting training. And I've also spent around 6 years teaching these things. I've been teaching movement training, strength training, rehabilitative training, and a lot more to my students as well. And more recently, I've earned my very first black belt in Qigong and self-defense from Grandmaster Jiang Shan. And now, since basically we met Jiang Shan in 2018, he's the Monkey Kung Fu master of Taiwan. And since 2018, I've also learned a lot with him. And here I will present to you 5 of the most interesting and most unexpected things that I learned from Jiang Shan. Number 1, you need to have a teacher, a mentor, or a master. So as I said, I've been learning over these years from many teachers, and this has been invaluable, because in order to really avoid a lot of the mistakes that many people do and just learn much faster, you need to have someone that has had the experience. So having a mentor or a teacher or a master is really a way to cut the learning curve and just learn much faster and in a much safer way. I remember we even got like a comment from our training programs that they are just a way to avoid years of trial and error. And this, I think, is one of the most valuable really things of having someone with more experience. And when it comes to Qigong and Kung Fu, this came also in a very illuminating manner, because Qigong, Kung Fu and the Taoist methods have a thousands of years old history. And this is knowledge that has been accumulated over thousands of years. It has gone from master to a student, from the teacher to a pupil over these years, and it's really quite impossible to learn it during your own lifetime, and especially without any guidance. And it's also not the same thing to learn from the books, because when you have a person who actually experienced these things, he can show you these things in a much more deeper manner and really teach you in a much more qualitative manner as well, these things. So Jiang Shan gave us this opportunity to learn Asian Qigong, which we had only scratched the surface of, and we found out that there was a lot more to really learn in this area as well. And more that is really related to this is the willingness to always be a student, and even it doesn't matter how much experience you have, what kind of accolades you have, or how successful you are, you need to have this ability to remain open and just humble yourself to be able to learn many new things. I remember the very first time we met with Jiang Shan, and he was really wondering, like, why would we want to even learn from him? He had seen, our training videos. He understood that we are on a high level in training. He even mentioned this 2-finger 1-arm push-up that I've been doing, and he was kind of like wondering what could we learn from him? But it really turned out there was a lot to learn from Jiang Shan, and one of these reasons was also because of our background. So because of our knowledge and expertise in training, we were actually able to extract more from Qigong and Kung Fu that I think is possible for regular people, because we really see things from a different perspective, and we're able to apply the knowledge in so many different fields. And it's good to remember that it's very easy to be a master at your own comfort zone, but when you step out of that, you might notice you really have a lot still to learn. Number 2, the missing piece in breathing. So before I ever met Jiang Shan, I already knew a lot about breathing. I had studied it and learned from yoga. I've learned very special and actually interesting things also from old school bodybuilding that might surprise many of you. I learned also breathing from Tony Robbins. I went to a seminar, a very high level breathing seminar that was from Steve Maxwell. And those of you who don't know Steve Maxwell, he's a very, very experienced coach with over 40 years of experience in physical fitness and strength training, and he has also background in BJJ. And he was also the first person in US to be a certified Gracie Jiu-Jitsu teacher, so he was a very personal student of the Gracie family. And if you don't know the Gracie guys, they were really true masters at breathing. And Steve Maxwell had learned from the Gracie family, and he was also teaching these methods and many more in his seminar. So I really had a great grasp on breathing, but there was something that was missing that I didn't know. And this is something that we learned when we were filming our very first Qigong course, the Health and Fighting Qigong with Jiang Shan. And this was a method that I have not encountered in really anywhere in the Western culture. And I've read breathing books and attended these seminars. I've even learned from yoga as well. And I know in yoga there is something that's a little bit similar towards it, but it's still not the same, and it's not taught nearly in the same depth that it was taught in Qigong. So the breath of mental power, a way to really train your breathing in a very special and unique and fundamental manner, was something I learned in the Qigong, and this was one of those missing pieces that just made my breathing knowledge much more well-rounded. So since then, by learning from these different teachers, by reading, learning from Qigong, I've really been able to experiment with breathing a lot and take it even further from there. Number 3. There are things that you can find from the internet. So nowadays we do tend to think that everything we want to know is available for us. If we just Google it out, search it from the YouTube, or if we can even maybe pay just a small amount of money, we will get access to everything. And now, while there is of course an enormous amount of information available on the internet, there is still also a lot of knowledge that is sort of behind closed doors. And this especially concerns information that is in foreign language. So to really understand certain concepts or gain knowledge, new knowledge, you might have to make a much deeper research than just sort of short Googling it out. And this is especially true when it came to, for example, Qigong and Kung Fu, where generally a lot of these methods has been kept hidden and has been kept as a secret. And it is impossible to learn certain things just by reading or just by copying, or even if you did see it on somewhere on YouTube, without really the guidance and the teaching. And so while you get the superficial knowledge, or the image, you don't get the true knowledge with it. And in our training, and especially for me and for our method, it has been like very close to my heart. It has been the most important to truly understand the essence in training. This is the reason why we're able to bring forth very deep training knowledge, because we're trying to understand this essence. And because of this, I felt that I was able to learn much better from Qigong, because I was able to ingest the real idea behind these things, and I was able to embody it, because I had been doing and train already this for many years. So I just applied this ability to learn now into a new field, which was the Qigong and Kung Fu. But more than that, there's also something that, for example, creating a relationship with the Jiang Shan. So he doesn't teach people that he really doesn't trust, for example, and we spent time with him, and this way we also was able to get closer to this person to really be able to learn much better from him. So this is stuff that you really cannot find from the internet, and it's impossible to learn just by copying or trying to read from the books. Moreover, almost no one really has a exact idea of what I'm doing either, because I haven't revealed my methodology except what I put out into our training programs. But I am a teacher, I'm a researcher, and I train every day learning new things. So there's a lot of knowledge that is simply I cannot even, or haven't even been able to put out anywhere. So only some of my closest students have an idea of certain methods that I'm using and the techniques that I'm using. So there's a lot of things that I haven't yet revealed, but I hope this will become possible in the future. Number 4, you can affect your body and brain chemistry significantly with different ways of standing and moving the body. So we have always known that, of course, our health and our posture and everything, this affects our mood, the way we feel. It affects our health. So, and for example, years ago, I read a book from a former FBI agent, which was about body language, how you can affect, for example, your mental states by just standing in different manners or sitting in different manners. So I knew I had an idea of the importance there, and we have been emphasizing posture for years in our training. Our core values are health, posture, and performance. And posture, because if you have a body that is aligned and is healthy and structurally balanced, this affects everything. And this was very evident for us, which is why we have kept it as one of our core values for all these years. So we knew about different ways that you could influence yourself, but in Qigong this just became much more apparent and much more sophisticated, because instead of just having these individual postures, there were whole sequences of movement, sequences of postures through which you could influence your own mental states, your own moods. And this also led us to very, very interesting sort of research that we did by ourselves, just comparing, for example, concepts and things from Western medicine to these more sort of mystic concepts from Qigong, that you could say. And we found actually a lot of things that were kind of, a lot of similarities actually, a lot of common things, but with just very different ways of describing them. So this was very eye-opening as well. Number 5, agent harden skill can have very useful applications in MMA. So I've been doing MMA and I've been doing these different combat sports, wrestling and such, and I've noticed that having hardened body can be very, very useful. It can have many applications as well. And of course, when you're doing wrestling or MMA, and for example, this is what I noticed also in the very first classes of MMA that I did with Samuli, we were basically all bruised up after those classes. I remember my ribs were in pain and such. So when you're doing these sports, you are already doing hardening training just by doing that sport itself. But the advantage in Kung Fu hardening is that it's a real consciously done hardening of the body. It's a skill that you do. So this can make it much more, speed up the process of hardening. You can also cover areas in your body that normally wouldn't get necessarily even hardened. So you can really shield up sort of these weaker areas. And for example, in our Health and Fighting Qigong course, we have the golden bell full body hardening method, and this is a progressive method to harden your entire body to be able to withstand blows, to withstand hits. And we have people who are reported who have been practicing this, who have said, for example, that they're able to take body shots like they're nothing. And the significance of hardening can be hard to understand before you've really seen it. Like we saw Shan's hands, which are of course massive. Many other people have also noticed them from the videos, and I felt the hardness of his forearms, of shins, and this can be very intimidating, especially if you are not yourself that hard. So having this hardness also gives a lot of psychological advantages as well. Simply, if you know you have durable and hard limbs, it makes it just much easier to hit harder, hit faster, because you're not afraid of breaking your arms, which is actually very common when it comes to boxing and MMA. Many people have wrist pain, wrist problems, their hand problems, because they are really not conditioned. They cannot even do a proper punch with their bare knuckles. So having this ability can really make a huge impact, depending on how weak limbs you've had before. Hardening them can really bring a lot more confidence, and also it can be much more intimidating for your opponents. When someone, for example, kicks you in your shins, you have hardened shin bones, the opponent will get hurt and don't probably want to kick you again. So there's a lot of, as I said, there's already a lot of hardening that you get by just doing the martial arts training, but you can really take it also to another level. As always, it is necessary to take what is useful and discard what is useless, as Bruce Lee said. So learning from Shan was very invaluable experience, because Shan had knowledge that this very few people have in the West. Shan has learned in Taiwan, basically from Taiwanese sources and from the local Grandmaster, which is why he was able to offer a very unique perspective on Qigong and on Kung Fu. I don't agree everything that he teaches, and I don't believe everything that comes out from the world of Kung Fu, but I do think that me and Samuli were able to dissect the most practical and most useful methods from the knowledge that was available for us about Qigong and Kung Fu. And I think the best part of about this was just that we were able to put all this knowledge and methods into these courses so that others could also learn these unique methods. Learning these ancient methods from Qigong and Kung Fu has been a very interesting and eye-opening experience during our long training journey, and we have spent a lot of time on learning Qigong during these 2 years, but at the same time we've also all the time progressed in our own methods and taken everything further. And I feel like our research and methods are just now starting to reach a point that is very unique and very comprehensive, and I'm very excited to be able to share this at some point in the future, perhaps some even during this year. But for now, I hope you guys keep training yourself and you keep evolving and learning. So take care, guys, and stay strong.